What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we got to talk about Pirates of the Caribbean 6 and one of the best signs I think that you could receive for this movie. Look, we're still kind of in the thick of things, and, ultimately, it's who will come back that I think will ultimately determine how much I'm going to be, interested in this movie or not. We talk about all the time, but we got an interview with Jerry Bruckheimer, and these are always the things to look out for, right? Whenever the man's out in the wild or whenever somebody talks to him, they most times bring up pirates. You tend to get the same response that the script isn't ready, and then you'll normally get like one thing that's like, okay, Johnny Depp, not Johnny Depp, characters, not characters, and that's what we get here. So let's kind of read out what happened. This was from yesterday. So Tyler, King of the Brethren, found this over on Twitter. In an interview with Screen Rant's Ash Crossan for F1, which will be released on June 27th, Bruckheimer offers an update on Pirates of the Caribbean 6's cast and the sequel's current status. The franchise producer revealed that they are still working on the script, which will be a new take, but it won't be a brand new cast. Bruckheimer confirmed that some members would return. Check out the comments below. So Screen Rant says a continuation or something new. It'll be a new take on it. Screen Rant, new take, new actors. Well, not all new actors. Will have some back. And Screen Rant said, okay. And then Bruckheimer, I'm not going to tell you which ones. You'll have to guess. Now, the big thing to come out of that is the returning, right? But just really quickly, that first question, it is an interesting one, right? A continuation or something new. It'll be a new take on it. That doesn't actually answer the question, because that's neither a brand new thing, a new take on it, which to me, the way I read that is something different built in that world that you already have. And you got so many ways that you can go. Generally, as we've seen, and we saw them do it with 4, we saw them do it with 5, we've seen many movies try it in the last 10 to 15 years, is the passing of the torch, right? Which is somewhat a new take. Oftentimes it derives from it, so it's not really a new take, but they're trying to continue the franchise with something new, trying to stay within that formula. So that's something that we don't really know until you get a synopsis, and you get really the important thing, like I keep saying, is who comes back. Because if you and I keep saying it, if you don't bring Jack Sparrow back, to me, you don't have a movie. And you could debate how much he needs to be in it, whatever, but with all of the outside optics to this movie, and where you left it in 5, I cannot imagine you do a brand new thing in this universe and Johnny Depp's not in it. And I think it's just a terrible look. We've talked about it 1,000 different times. Now, the important thing, right, is that he says, we'll have some back. And about a week ago, Orlando Bloom, is in the movie Bryce Dallas Howard, right? I think it's on Prime or one of these 5,000 streaming services. And, he was asked in an interview about Pirates 6. And he gave a really interesting answer, right? Maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't, but he talked about that there's basically this idea out there, or he wants to get the band back together, right? But he even said that there's been talk of how do you bring these characters back? And he had said that, he doesn't know how ultimately it would play out, because it's tricky kind of no matter what. But I very much think that he was hinting at, and just the way he said it, that I feel like behind the scenes, they are thinking about, okay, how do you bring Jack, Will, and Elizabeth, those 3? When he says, get the band back together, who else are you talking about, right? Factually, you can't do Barbossa, okay? Now, he would have been, I think, actually the easiest, and, so dynamic and so freaking good in every single movie. He is the most consistently amazing character in all of them, okay? But, obviously that's been taken care of, so you can't really do anything about that. Davy Jones, hinted at the end of 5. I think they're going to toss that. I just don't think that's going to happen. Although, getting the band back together, maybe he's talking about Davy Jones, but probably not. I think he's talking about those main 3. You have, Gibbs. Gibbs, I mentioned Barbossa. Gibbs, I do think actually is maybe the easiest and the character that's just kind of this guide. He's just this strong personality that can be funny, can be informative. You know, he plays a very significant, even though, you know, not in a ton, but plays a very significant part to all of them. And I feel like he can be carried over to anybody. You know, he can be like a mentor to a 20-something person. He can be a mentor to Jack Sparrow. You can carry him around anywhere. You know, I mean, he's kind of this wandering soul in a good way. So, you know, I do believe he's talking about the main three, though. Like, when you talk about getting the band back together, you're talking about, okay, you go back really 1 through 3. That's where I think he would go, Orlando Bloom would go, and say, okay, well, who's the band? You know, and it's those 3. And then you have this. I mean, like, him saying that is one thing, because, you know, and I've obviously thought about this quite a bit, you know, behind the scenes, but him saying it is one thing. For now Jerry Bruckheimer say, you know, we'll have some of them back. Like, and again, it depends on the interview. Some interviews have asked him about Johnny Depp, and it's a 50-50 question. It's a 50-50 answer. So you have that, and then now he has, you know, we'll have some. If you have some, like, who are you even, like, I guess Henry and Karina are people that are characters that some people online are bringing up. I just, you know, I like them, and I actually think they've done great things for, like, their acting career even since, you know, Pirates. But I don't know, just in the kind of political Hollywood world, like, I don't think that worked. I just factually don't really think that worked, and I don't think you would kind of double down on that and bring them in on 6. I kind of feel like you would relinquish that. I mean, if you have Will, then, like, not having Henry is actually kind of weird. So maybe that's a little bit. And then, you know, Karina connected to Barbosa, like, you know, that makes sense. I mean, you could. I'm not saying you can't, and I think it would be a cool thing if you could have a little bit of a thread that goes through. You know, like, Scrum was the thing in 4, you know, going into 5, and it's like, besides that, you had nothing from 4. If you do this new movie, it's got nothing from 4 or 5. You know what I mean? It definitely diminishes it, and you don't have to have them in it for all that long. But, you know, all of this talk, for as much as I'm talking, it ultimately still comes down to one guy, and it's not Orlando Bloom. You know, Will is freaking fantastic, and of course, I think he would elevate it. You know, if nobody else was in it except for, say, him and then Gibbs, you know, that was Pirate 6. I mean, I think they could do actually wonders for it, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work without one specific person. And, you know, we've talked about what exactly to do with Jack, and we'll definitely talk about it more, you know, as we get closer. But they're still working on the script. That was kind of that extra thing. Like, they still don't have the script figured out. So, man, it's still not filming this year. Probably, you know, go to next year. But every year I always say, like, can we please, by the end of the year, at least get things solidified? You know, like, have a script, tell us that synopsis, tell us kind of what it's about, have the cast, and then you don't have to film right away, but to kind of, like, nail it down. You know, I've wished on that. You know, I've, like, made birthday wishes for that for, like, 5 years, and we still haven't gotten it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.